quite the trek.
Get away.
It's kind of amazing, actually.
Yeah.
So when they get to St. Petersburg, they are eventually granted an audience with Empress Catherine II, or Catherine the Great, as we know her. Cool lady. And after hearing their petition, she had instructed the Collegium of Justice to start an investigation regarding the accusations of torture and murder. And at this time, too, Catherine the Great, she was making a lot of reforms so that nobles could not do a lot of the things that they were able to do before. And she was creating protections for serfs. So this was like a real big red flag for her.
She was like, this lady probably is crazy.
Darya Saltykova was arrested after Catherine the Great had found out about this, and she was kept in jail for the next 6 years while they went ahead with the investigation. And they had found for sure that she had killed at least 39 people, at least, at this point.
Yeah, that they kind of maybe know about. Obviously, that's where the at least comes in, but still. I just keep getting cartoon visions of her throwing those fucking logs, man.
Her like a little girl by the pigtails. Yeah.
That one's good. Forcing someone to eat chocolate cake, but instead of cake, it's just mud.
While they're conducting the investigation, a lot of people who would have had really helpful information or were beaten horribly by her were too scared to come forward because they were too traumatized.
Yeah.
She was not designated as being crazy or mentally ill or anything either. They were like, she has her wits about her. She's just a terrible human being. And she remained unrepentant. Like, she was not sorry about any of this at all. She actually maintained that because she was so religious and she had given so much money to the church that it didn't matter that she had hurt and killed people.
Oh,
like,
I mean,
she was A-okay in the eyes of the Lord.
Yeah, sure. Very, very, very Christian of you, miss.
It's very Christiane.
Who's she?
So towards the end of the investigation, they revealed the closer to the actual amount of people that she had killed. Do you want to give it a guess?
I'm gonna well over 100.
Yes.
Solid.
The number that I found most consistently was close to 138.
She's a busy gal. She's got things to do. People to murder, logs to throw, men to beat up.
And this was over the course of like 6 or 7 years. She killed this many people.
Yeah, she's like, I don't have time for pleasantries. I have someone to murder right now. Excuse me. Maybe that's why her house wasn't as clean as she wanted it to be. Because, you know, when you start killing all of your servants, it's hard to clean.
It's so hard to find good help these days.
all I can think, she's like, there's a mess in this area. They're like, yeah, it's because you murdered the person that was cleaning. Like, minutes ago. The mess is the murder. That's what it is. The
investigation's over. There's a very public trial happening, and she is found guilty of murdering and torturing 38 people definitively.
Okay.
But Catherine the Great was undecided on how she wanted to punish her. So that took a little bit of thinking. We had to get creative, okay?
Let's get creative.
There were some crafts involved. Martha Stewart was consulted.
Googly eyes.
There was a lot of cardstock. So what was really unfortunate about Darya's sentencing is that in 1754 in Russia, the death penalty had actually been abolished.
Okay.
Which I did not know, and I thought was...
rad.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, to say the least. So instead of sentencing her to death because she couldn't, she gave her a life sentence. And as one of her punishments before she went off to be imprisoned, they had put her out in the Red Square, basically like tied up like in a stockade sort of situation, with a sign on her that said this woman has tortured and murdered, so that people could mock her and spit on her and like hit her and do whatever they wanted. And it was only for an hour, but I feel like it was probably the longest hour of her life.
Yeah.
It wasn't really like stocks. I don't think she was on a platform and they had her chained up. But, you know, everyone got to come by and just point and be like, ha ha. That woman committed murder. So this is where the crafts come in.
Okay.
All of the creative things.
Wait, was the sign in puff paint?
Yes, they actually it was delicately airbrushed onto a piece of parchment.
Yes.
Part of her sentence said that she was to be placed into a monastery dungeon and chained for the duration of her sentence.
Okay.
So she was incarcerated in a room that was completely windowless.
Oh wow, that sucks.
and there were no lights allowed to be given to her. She was kept in complete darkness,
So she went crazy.
Except for when a nun basically would come and bring her food and her piss pot. She would get a small candle that she would have to return when she was done eating. And the candle and the piss pot would be taken away afterwards. And she lived like that for 11 years.
Okay. And then was just like a little white, clear-skinned
like
monster.
Like scary milky eyes and everything.
Yeah.
That's what I'm envisioning. Yeah.
It's just nuts now because you cannot do that to humans, okay?
There was another instruction in her judgment that read, quote, "From this reclusion, take her out in such a place during church services where she would be able to hear them happen, but never enter church proper."
Oh, well, that's terrible for someone who's religious.
Exactly.
Boom.
Yeah.
Well, maybe don't murder 130 some people.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it. Maybe don't torture people. Maybe do all the things that aren't those things.
Have you ever heard the phrase, "you catch more bees with honey than vinegar"? So in 1779, she was shifted to a different monastery building. This time, her cell did have a window with shutters. This is 11 years later. And according to locals, she would often curse and spit at spectators out of the window and throw things at them and try to hit them with sticks.
That's really funny. So now she looks like an old Disney witch.
Yeah.
And she's just flinging items out of a window.
And by this point, you're right. She has really lost a lot of her sanity. It's gone. She is just the pissed off,
Yeah.
cuckoo bananas old lady with the scary milky eyes trying to hit you with a stick and spitting at you out her window.
Bananas.
She's cuckoo bananas.
I love it.
So she did pass away on November 27th of 1801. She was about 71 years of age at the time. She had been incarcerated for a total of 33 years. The one thing that she was not denied, though, was a Christian burial. So she was laid in the family plot with the rest of her relatives.
Okay. And the relatives' bodies moved on their own volition away from her.
They were like, "We don't really like her. She's the black sheep of the family." Yeah, and I think it's really interesting how people compare her to Elizabeth Bathory, because I feel like Elizabeth Bathory was more horrifying.
Yeah, she's way more sadistic.
Which is crazy because Darya is pretty nasty too, but I don't think she's at that level quite yet. She's close, but she's not there yet.
Do you know that there's a subsect of humans that think that she was wrongfully prosecuted?
Well, I mean, have you seen Elizabeth Bathory's crafting skills? I did not know that.
There is. They're like, no, it wasn't really, like, this wasn't actually happening.
Do they have any actual
just
reason to believe that?
It's like flat earthers. Like, there's no reason for a lot of things.
Or like Holocaust deniers.
Yeah.
Like, it's history. It's written.
Yeah.
People were there, man. They talked about it. It was a big to-do.
There are pictures.
There's
actual film proof.
Do you read the newspaper? Like, so one of the things that I thought was really funny was that she also had a nickname, which was Saltykova, which I find really hilarious because the spelling of it looks like salty Chica.
Oh, I mean, she was.
She was real salty. Later on, it was a term that was used synonymously for treating serfs and peasants poorly and bestial. And that was my story.
That was fun.
It was fun, wasn't it?
I like, well, it's not very nice to say I like these particular kinds, but I like the ones that you're just like, but how? How?
And, once some time has passed and it's not the 1700s anymore, it's like, okay, that was several hundred years back. Yeah. We can move forward with our lives now.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
No one that was involved in it is still alive in any way.
That's right.
They're little dusty bones now.
That's right. Especially salty Chica.
Salty, dusty bones. It's story time. I'm going to tell you about the Congress.
Ooh, yay!
Yeah, which I'm very surprised that when we were talking about it before, I'm really surprised that you knew nothing about it.
I don't. I know that it's like famously haunted. I feel like I've heard that there's some mob stuff tied to it, but I don't know if that's real.
Well, okay, there's a little bit of it, but we'll get into that.
I'm ready for the shenanigans.
So the Congress Plaza Hotel It is considered one of the most haunted buildings in Illinois, period. Also, there's a massive amount. It's like up there in level of famous with like the Stanley and, these kinds of other areas.
Yeah.
It's a huge deal across the United States as well, mostly because obviously Chicago has this like super rich, very cool mob history. Duh.
We really do.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure this should be just like the Congress Murder Plaza Hotel. Because there's a lot of things that are affiliated with it that I was like, oh, okay, oh. And it just seems like there's a lot of murders that just wander through there like, hello, I'm here for just a moment, and then I'm going to leave and murder someone. It was originally built in 1893 as the auditorium annex for the World's Fair.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah, how cool. And there is a rumor that it was one of the sources for H.H. Holmes to acquire people, especially obviously as he was active during
the World's Fair. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, they thought that maybe because everyone's coming in and out and like it's not just his specific murder hotel that was in operation, that he also acquired victims from there and was like, hey man, like come stay in my murder hotel. I mean, not murder, not mine. You won't get murdered here.
Yeah, I have a murder castle.
Besides the fact that he was active at the time, it doesn't really super add up that was a thing, but it could have been. And I think it's a fun thought, I guess. Mm-hmm. In addition to a myriad of elevator accidents, heart attacks, and murders, there's been an outrageous number of suicides, first of which was supposed to be responsible for one of the many shadow men roaming the halls.
Ew, I don't like those.
I know. I was like, I don't remember glowing red eyes in this, so, you might be safe. Captain Lou Ostheim was said to have accidentally shot himself as a response to his constant night terrors. It is believed to be the shadow that led a security guard to the roof and then obviously locked him out there. And he was like, what? There's no one up here. The ballrooms seemed to be jam-packed with noises of what came before, especially since people like Teddy Roosevelt and Al Capone frequented the hotel, especially obviously these conference rooms. Yeah, had wild parties, did some cool stuff.
They were some pretty big balls.
Oh gosh. You're so stupid. In the Florentine room where Teddy retired from the Republican Party, women whisper, men hum, and wooden cartwheels roll across the floor. The piano keys play, gunshots ring out, and women scream. So one of the ideas behind the maybe women screaming and the gunshots, obviously, Chicago, mob town number one. Not really, but, pretty high up there in the mob stuff.
I mean, yeah, we're pretty rich with mob history. We've got Capone and Bugsy Malone.
A lot of Capone's higher up underlings were living in the hotel. Obviously, like I said, they were throwing parties there. So they think that some of the screaming and the gunshots may be due to them living there. Supposedly, okay, so Greasy Thumb was one of the underlings and it was involved in the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, at least the planning stages of it. But it's said that Capone had called him before and after the massacre to check in on like how the plan was going.
Yeah.
A woman often scares ladies in the bathroom and even follows them into the hallway after they try to leave the bathroom, which I always think is funny. I do think bathroom ghosts are they're pretty fucking amazing.
I feel like she's like that drunk girl that won't let it go and she's trying really hard to pick a fight. Hey, you get back here.
Yeah. Or the ones that are like, I don't know why this is happening to me. And then they're like crying and the makeup is everywhere. And then you're just like, I didn't know you before right now. Why are we talking? The most dramatic was the suicide of Roy Gormley. He had paid $500 to the orchestra, had bought rounds and then seconds for everyone that was there. And then retired in style to the Death March to shoot himself in his room.
Oh.
So he was like, I'm doing it up real big. I'm leaving this world. Here's some good stuff happening. The orchestra was like, oh, awesome. Thank you for all this money. And he was like, yeah, it's no problem. Let me get you some drinks. Yeah, that's no problem. Death March. Mm-hmm. Right on the nose there, friend. And then obviously had killed himself. The Gold Room seems to have multiple mirthful ghosts in it. There's often doors that are unlocking that the staff has repeatedly checked and relocked, and then obviously going back and finding that the door is completely open again. Unplugged appliances turn on. Oh, and this is the thing too, supposedly the piano that's in there, some of the people that gather around the grand piano there could be, like, it's a big-ass hotel. It's very pretty.
Yeah.
And they have, like, weddings and stuff like that there. And a lot of times they'll be like, oh, bridal party, let's go. Let's go stand by this beautiful, piano and, like, do whatever. But some people will be edited out of the photos. So it'd be like you and me and Chevy standing next to the piano, and then, like, I'm gone.
Huh. That's